I want to see you get excited and worked up for once.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you have tuned in to the adventures of Porno Man.
In my hot, wet, juicy, nasty,
Do what with your what?
on your knees.
Oh my.
Service me now.
I'ma grow up to be a dirty old man. Can't get it up and still flirt like I can. Pretending to drop shit to girl in the hand. And bend over to pick it up while I hurry get a glance up the skirt to see that pretty little ass. Thinking things to embarrass to the ass. Like, girl, is that your butt? Or is that just how you carry your bags? Shall we shack now or shack later?
So one of the other things that I like are audiobooks. And so I have almost completely converted to listening to audiobooks as opposed to just outright reading. I'll read when there isn't an audiobook version available. So I am currently reading, or listening to, I should say, something called The Expanse. I found out about it because I happened to stumble across a free episode of The Expanse on YouTube. It has been turned into a sci-fi show. And so I watched that first episode and I liked it. But we now currently have cable. So I decided, what the heck, instead of what I did with Game of Thrones, which was watch the show first and then start trying to read the books. This time I'll read the books first and then maybe I'll watch the show. And it is, I just finished the first book a day ago, and it is interesting story. It's and how it's structured and the crap that's going on. It reminds me of Game of Thrones, only in space. It doesn't have as many variety of character plots to follow, but it still has several, and not everybody not knowing what the hell is going on kind of a situation and trying to figure out what's going on. So far so good. I was very pleased with the book and the audio narration as well. Since we're talking about audiobooks, let me explain or describe what right now is my gold standard for that, and that is World War Z. I know many of you probably have not read the book. You may have seen the movie, at the very least you heard about the movie. And the movie, for what it was, hats off to Brad Pitt for making a pretty good zombie film, but it wildly detours from the book. The book is much more complex, much more it's just more. I don't know how else to describe it. In addition to it being a good book, and there's more of it than what the movie would suggest, what you have is it is read on an audiobook version by a full cast. So what that means is most audiobooks are read by one person and they read all the parts. From time to time, the person might even try to change their accent or their voice to mimic these different people. So it just kind of depends on styles and so forth. But this was actually played by a variety of different actors. Some of them you're going to know, some of them you may not, at least not by name. But John Leguizamo was in it. Alan Alda. There's Saladin. I can't remember his last name right now, but like there's a bunch of people who lent their voice acting to this book. The book actually is, the premise of the book is that there's a guy who, after the war was over, went around and did interviews with the different people who had survived and got their story, and then put their stories in such a way as to chronologically show you basically the beginning of the outbreaks to how it got bad, how it got really fucking bad, how they were able to slow it down, kind of get their shit together, and then go back out into the attack. And that story is given to you from the view of a variety of people, from a doctor to smugglers to people in the government, people who were soldiers, just everyday people in the United States or India, or in a variety of other places around the world. They so you've got all these different voices bringing out this story, and so the audiobook version only made the normal book version that much better. So most good zombie stories tells the story from the perspective of one or a few people in a group and what happens to them. You might get glimpses of the larger world through news reports and stuff like that, but it's almost exclusively shown through their eyes. World War Z takes it to a worldwide level, and you get to see it through all kinds of people throughout the entire world. So if you're into audiobooks or even want to try one, this again is the one I would suggest, because of the full cast, because it's a great story, and it's a real good read. The only downside to it is it'll spoil you. You know, if this is basically your first audiobook and you got to go back to others that don't have a full cast, that might kind of blow you a bit, but it's still worth it, and I suggest that you try. So that being the case, I go back to Netflix and what's on my list. Nothing has changed since last. Well, that's not true. Yes, I did finish something. So I did finish a couple of things. So now on my list, that I'm going through the rotations of is Longmire, and I'm still on Battle Creek, although I think I've only got a few more episodes of that. Still on Nurse Jackie, Arrested Development. I'm probably going to pick back up on Luther. I watched the first 2 seasons and then I kind of fell out, so I gotta get back onto that. So those are the things that are currently in my rotation. For those who do like their zombie films, on Netflix there is a movie and its sequel called Contracted and Contracted Phase 2. It gives the story of basically someone becoming a zombie, but they caught it through a sexually transmitted disease, and it's kind of an interesting thing to watch. So, it's not a great movie, but it's just because of its different take on it, it's worth it in and of itself. It's definitely not a bad movie, so if you're interested, check it out. Today, the new DLC for Rainbow Six comes out. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get the new characters, but I will see the new map, I guess, eventually. And I think that's about it for my entertainment so far. If you have any suggestions for things that I should watch or anything like that, by all means, leave them in the comments. If you would like to comment on the things that I'm watching, feel free to do that as well. And I guess that's it.
That mean you a dirty whore. So by me just telling you more to give a big throb and standing ovation. Guess I was just born to porn. Let me ask you something, baby.
Smack my ass.
Do I make you horny?
Smack my ass like you mean it.
Do I? Yeah!
Well, the stereo, and then she go. Jenny the song, I love a girl that swallows.
That had the answer. Yes, a bunch of mama said I'm too young. Little porn is a long boy, now corrupt.